Welcome.
Welcome, creepers. This is Creepy Conversations. I'm Gabby.
And I'm Kalai, and we're like both fresh off
We're not
our jobs.
fresh off our jobs, but we're not fresh at all.
Fresh. Let's just keep it at that because we might lose our listener.
I don't want to say anything more.
Just welcome. This is like probably our first time in a long time to like
record
during the night.
Yes. This is fine. Because the topic is not necessarily scary. Like the kind of scary wherein we can't sleep.
Still like, yeah. But it's still like the aura is kind of like dark and
gloomy. Yeah. Shit. Oh my god, I just realized I still owe my coach 10 push-ups, but I'll do this. I'll do that later. I just realized because he texted. Anyway.
Oh shit. And like earlier I was like fixing my light and then I literally looked like I was some entity and I got scared. I looked like I was floating or something.
How did you do that though?
I put the light below me, so that's why like my lines weren't straight anymore.
Like you didn't have lines at all. Would you? Oh my god, I want a snack again.
Gabby loves to snack whenever we're recording. Something about scary shit makes her hungry.
That's what we kept saying even in season 1. Ooh, how does that feel to say season 1?
Season 1. We're now in season 2. And so this week we're going to be covering the Hello Kitty murder. And it's like, for me, by the way, trigger warning, like this, there's gonna be like a lot of like really bad details that we're gonna be discussing, like torture and all the other stuff. I feel like this is like the most detailed when it comes to torture that we've ever covered.
Really?
Probably. I feel like. Anyway,
I'm excited.
My sources from this episode are South Morning China Post, Ranker.com, the podcast Talk Murder to Me, which is a great podcast name, by the way, China Underground, and of course, our best friend, Wikipedia. And so, in May of 1999 in Hong Kong, so let me just give you like a really quick picture of what Hong Kong looked like in 1999. So there were plenty of like local gangsters everywhere, and there was like a rise in number of people who were using and were addicted to crystal meth. So that like that's what it looked like, because at that time was like the release of gangster movies back in early 90s, like late 80s and early 90s. So like people what the hell? Sorry, let me just reboot. People were like obsessed with being a gangster and like the gangster lifestyle because, you know, that was the only thing that they saw, and they kind of like they glorified that shit. So, in that day, May of 1999, a 13-year 1999,
yeah.
Right? Did I say it right? My brain is glitching. It's overworked.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Anyway, so a 13-year-old girl, let's just call her Ahong, because that's not her real name, by the way, because she's a minor, so we don't know what her real name is, and let's just keep it that way. So Ahong made her way to the Hong Kong police station. She told officers that for the past several weeks, she had been like constantly haunted by the ghost of a woman. And the ghost appears to her bound by an electrical wire and tortured to death. So the police initially didn't take it seriously because she's a kid, and Ahong like had run away for like the previous year, and she's known to like hang out with like a group of triad members and had been like into drugs. So by the way, if you're not like familiar with what the triads are, I feel like
I'm not in.
Are the triads like a common thing?
Oh, a common what thing?
A common thing? Like, do people know what they are?
I feel like it. I mean, like,
I feel like they do.
because the Triad is a very big. I don't even know if they're an organization, but it's an organized crime syndicate that started in China, like Greater China. But they're kind of like spread out around Southeast Asia and mostly in Hong Kong, because obviously like they had connections with China, and they were even in Taiwan. And these groups actually started in the 18th century, and even until now, they're still here actually. And these guys deal with drug trafficking, counterfeiting monies, prostitution, and even healthcare fraud. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wasn't like Singapore also like had triads before it became like what it is now?
Yes, so they have territories in Hong Kong, like I said, in Taiwan. They also have it in Macau, Vietnam, even Japan. And basically they're all over Southeast Asia. They have in Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, even Indonesia and US. They're everywhere.
I wouldn't be surprised because, gangsters be gangsting.
It's like the Bloods and the Crips. They're also everywhere, right?
Right. But I feel like they're more into, like, smuggling shit.
They're, like bigger groups.
They're not really, like, unlike the Bloods and Crips here. Never mind. I'm not going to talk shit about the Bloods and Crips here.
We can't say shit about gangsters because...
Because we have friends who are gangsters.
For real.
Here.
For real.
Like, for real. So, anyway, now that we know what the triads are. So, the police, let's go back to, like, Ahong. So, the police, like, initially dismissed her claims because, like, they thought that she was just high or, like, some shit. But then... she said something that made them stop what they were doing. So the 13-year-old girl said that she was being haunted by a woman that she helped murder. And they questioned her a bit more, and she eventually led them to the third floor flat on Granville Road 31 in the crowded Tsim Sha Tsui in the area of Kowloon. So in our previous episode, we covered the serial killer Lam Kor Wan, which I like.
It's still the same place.
Yeah, it's the same place. It's the area where he would like roam around to look for his victims. Because I think Tsim Sha Tsui is like the Manila. I don't think it's the capital, but it's like probably the Cebu of like.
It's a nightlife district. That's why.
Right. That's why. Now we know.
I did a quick Google research.
But yeah, so back in the apartment in Granville Road 31, they found the skull of a woman stuffed inside a Hello Kitty mermaid stuffed toy. So if you've heard about the Hello Kitty murders, or even if you haven't heard of them, you've probably... Sorry, I can see Gabby like trying to eat chips, and it is just woo. Anyway, but yeah, it's the famous photo of like the dirty Hello Kitty, the Hello Kitty mermaid. So that this is the murder. So the skull belonged to a 23-year-old nightclub hostess by the name of Fan Man-Yee. Fan Man-Yee.
It's so funny how you had to say that again.
So I'll say it again one more time because I feel like I didn't say it right. So Fan Man-Yee had a troubled life growing up, and her family abandoned her while she was only a child, and she ended up at Ma Tau Wai Girls Home. Ma Tau Wai Girls Home is like kind of like a criminal juvenile detention center for girls and undocumented immigrants, but it's not really a prison, but it's also like not somewhere where you would want to have your child grow up. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of like, they're gonna be around a lot of like juvenile delinquents or like people with like no family or have abandonment issues.
Honestly, if you give birth in a place that's not a hospital or your home, that's just weird. You don't want that.
Yeah. She ended up there for some reason. I don't know why her family abandoned her. I tried to like Google it, but nothing comes up. Anyway, by her mid-teens, she had settled into a life of like petty crime, prostitution, and I don't want to say prostitution. The correct term is sex work people. But yeah, so sex work and drug addiction. And she became addicted to drugs at a really early age to pay for her addiction. And she started doing sex work at like various brothels and nightclubs. She was like probably a minor when she started doing it. And in 1996, she met her husband while she was working as a dancer in the Empress Karaoke nightclub in May, and she gave birth in May 1996, and she gave birth to a son 2 years later. But her relationship with her husband was rocky because both Fan Man-Yee and her husband were addicted to drugs. And her neighbors at their Kwai Chung home complained to reporters of being kept awake by the sound of domestic violence. So yeah, that was like a thing. And also the 90s and even until now, but the peak was like in the 90s. Domestic violence was like so rampant that people didn't report it anymore because they were just so used to it.
It sucks when people start to be desensitized by something that's
right,
really bad.
Exactly. And also, like, if you're listening to this, please, if you hear like anything that sounds like domestic violence, please call your cops. Your neighbors won't know that it's you.
Be all up in their business because you're there to help.
Yeah, let's help each other. And after that, like, their relationship with her husband kind of, they're together, but they didn't separate, but they're not like in good terms or something. But they, like, according to reports, she stopped doing drugs after her son was born. So they were still kind of like in that, like, not in good terms, but they were
trying,
like, not a happy couple. Yeah, they were trying. And then after that, Fan met Chan Man-Lok in a brothel called Romance Villa. So, Chan Man-Lok was a drug lord and a member of the triad, and he began paying for her for long sex sessions and crystal meth binges together. So this was like before her like child was born probably. But according to like Chan Man-Lok, it was early March 1999 during one of these like crystal meth binges that Fan allegedly stole Chan's wallet containing 20,000 Hong Kong dollars at that time. Although Fan was able to pay Chan Man-Lok, she paid back with like interest from her prostitution. No, sorry, again, sex work earnings. Along with like an extra $10,000 in interest. However, Chan Man-Lok wasn't satisfied. He told the nightclub hostess or Fan Man-Yee, that she had given him an additional 16,000 interest. And when Fan Man-Yee wasn't able to come up with the money, which was like 4 times that she'd originally like quote unquote stolen, Chan Man-Lok initiated a certain plan. So, on the evening of March 17, 1999, 2 triad members, 27-year-old Leung Shin Cho and 21-year-old Leung Wai Lun, whom Chan ordered to abduct Fan Man-Yee. The group's plan was to abduct her and make her a sex worker until she repaid her quote-unquote debt, even though she already paid it. So they took her after they kidnapped her, they took her to their shared apartment in the apartment 31 Granville Road, in the one I mentioned earlier in Jim Sha Tsui, where they imprisoned her. So Chan Man-Lok's place, or like, because they share it, but mainly it's his place because he's the boss, he's the drug lord, is a 7-room apartment above a famous shopping street, which is the Granville Road, and it contained like everything you needed to block out reality. So it had cable TV, it had video games, it had like the very first PlayStation.
Wow.
It had Hollywood movies, Hong Kong movies, it had like sex movies, and
you mean
lot
porn?
Of drugs. Yep. And it also had, obviously, that part was copy pasted because it says sex movies. So the distinct thing about the apartment was that it was filled with Hello Kitty stuff. Like it had Hello Kitty curtains, Hello Kitty bed sheets, Hello Kitty kitchenware, and Hello Kitty dolls.
That is scary.
And these were like grown ass men. The youngest among them is 21 years old. So why the fuck do y'all have Hello Kitty shit? Like, why do you like Hello Kitty? I'm a girl. I'm not a fan of
Same.
her. But yeah, and Chan used that apartment as like an operations center for like loan sharking, for pimping, for pirate porn. Like they pirated the porn and sold it, and then of course drugs. And the 13-year-old, let's call her, what was her like name again? What was her like
Ahong.
quote unquote name? The 13-year-old.
Was that it?
Ahong, I think so. Yeah. Wait, where was I? Sorry, I scrolled up and then I don't know where I am. Right, so Ahong was there for most of the crime, and she was the one who detailed what happened in the courts. She detailed what happened during the entire month that they kept Fan Man-Yee alive and in and out of consciousness. So Ahong recalls that the group tied her up, took off her shoes, and using plastic straws, they melted the plastic on Fan's feet, causing it to blister. By the way, if you don't want to listen to torture, you can skip for like the next 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not even sure. Just skip 3 minutes. And then the men did this for several hours before getting bored with the straws. And they began holding the flame on her already blistered feet. And then they put chili oil, vegetable oil infused with chili peppers, and then they poured it into her blisters, her wounds, and her eyes. And then each night when the gang slept, they would hang her up by her feet from a hook attached to the apartment ceiling. And when the morning came, the men would beat Fan Man-Yee with iron bars, which was like a detached water pipe, and then they would use the chili oil again to maximize her pain. And when Fan would drift out of consciousness, they would stop torturing her and start playing video games. So obviously this was like not real for them because one, they were probably high, and also they're like psychopaths. So to them it was like another
It was just a game, yeah.
They were like reliving. So Ahong told the court they beat her all the time. They beat her when they were bored. They beat her for laughs. They would throw oyster sauce in her face and make her drink motor oil, and they began urinating in her mouth and beating her senseless, right? They would beat her if she spit it out, and Ahong said she was broken and playing with her wasn't so much fun after that, but we carried on anyway. There wasn't anything else to do. And they didn't feed her or gave her water. And the 13-year-old Ahong tells police that she once defecated into a shoebox and they forced her to eat it.
I'm amazed that she survived all of that. Because I feel like if I was in her place, I'd just like wish for death.
Right. I feel like because she was thinking of her son the entire time, like maybe she wanted to survive because she still had a kid or something. Like there was something in her that wanted to survive. So, according to Ahong, on one occasion, she watched as Chan kicked Fan Man-Yee approximately 50 times. So she joined in by hitting Fan Man-Yee with her hand. Ahong, who's 13, I would like to remind you guys, also admitted to committing other acts of torture, and when she was questioned about her motives, she said with a blank expression in her face that I had a feeling it was for fun. Like, for her, she wanted to see if she was gonna get fun out of it. On April 15, the three triad members and the 13-year-old Ahong returned home from the arcade and clubs, and it was that evening that they checked on their victim. they actually rested when they got home. They like rested for a while, and then they checked on her because they noticed that she wasn't moving or doing anything.
Wow, now they start to
noticed
worry.
that they noticed that she wasn't breathing and her body was like cool to the touch, and they found that she didn't have any pulse anymore. So they panicked because the police entered the apartment complex one floor below them to investigate an unrelated rape case. So not in their floor, but a floor below them. So Chan Man-Lok ordered the entire group to work together and dispose of Fan's body in what, like, according to Ah Hong, she said that Chan Man-Lok actually said, now she must be destroyed. So, like, even that part is, like, very video game.
Yeah, you can tell that the way
dialogue.
you see, the way they see her is just a toy. Like, okay, we're done with you, so now it's time to put you away.
They're very, like, out of touch of reality, and I'm pretty sure they had, like, mental issues as well.
I mean,
that's why they were, like, very out of it. Because, I mean, that's not an excuse, because there are a lot of people who have mental illness and, like, do drugs but are still okay. They're just assholes by nature.
they're a
plus
different.
the mental illness and drugs. So, yeah, they're, like, gone. So, they move the corpse to the bathtub, and starting with the head, Chan began dismembering the body with a handsaw. Once Chan removed the head, he placed it in a pot of boiling water on a stove. Then the entire dismemberment took approximately 10 hours to complete. He ordered the other two men to remove the flesh from the corpse's bones and store the muscle tissue inside the refrigerator. Leung Shin Cho, who was now in charge of cooking the head, called Ah Hong to come help. However, she told detectives that her fear stopped her from looking inside the pot, and that's when he told her to pretend you're just watching television. During the process, the group felt hungry. So they placed another pot. They didn't eat her, by the way. Not that we know of.
Yeah, no.
Ah Hong didn't say so, but, like, they started cooking beside the pot of her head.
No, like, can you imagine doing all this shit? I don't think I'd be able
I wouldn't want to eat.
to feel hunger at all.
Right?
Like,
exactly.
and then here's me eating while we're doing the podcast.
Right, but it's different because, like, when you're actually doing it, you can smell the
For
blood.
sure. And you can see the whole thing. It's just wrong.
Right, and another thing, they kind of knew her before, like, they did this to her. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it, but Ah Hong, that's why she keeps on hanging out with them, because her boyfriend is one of the triads. Like, and some reports say that it's Chan Man-Lok, but other reports say that it was the 21-year-old, the youngest one. I forgot his name already. But yeah, there are conflicting reports that it's either or. So,
But
yeah.
whether or not,
Just thought I would
like,
mention that.
how old, it doesn't matter how old they are, she's a minor. You can't be dating a minor if you're not a minor. No, yeah. Like, what?
That's like another. Later on, we'll discuss that about the issue with, like, dating minors in those countries, including ours.
Yeah.
But I'll continue. So yeah, they started cooking. They began cooking noodles, and the same spoon that was used to stir the noodles was the same spoon that they used to stir or like poke the severed head.
Did they do this simultaneously? At least, like, cook the noodles first and then use the thing on her? Like,
I feel like they did it at the same time.
just like,
Because why would she, like, right? I feel like that's what happened. From what I understand, that's what happened. I think
this is why we have fucking COVID.
this is why we're punished, because people are just
Gross.
unsanitary. Anyway, so the refrigerator, which they found later on, contained teeth, muscle placed in Ziploc bags, and various internal organs. The police recovered Fan Man-Yee's liver, intestines, lungs, and heart from like a canopy below the apartment on May 26. And inside, of course, the Hello Kitty mermaid doll was the skull removed of all the flesh. Soon inside, the head of Hello Kitty. And then, yeah, they only found it because Ahong called the police. The reason why I had to like break down all of that terrible shit that happened to her, you'll find out later because of their sentencing, which is unfortunate. Another thing that's really unfortunate and disgusting that happened was that the media kind of like changed the narrative. So the court issued a photo of like Fan Man-Yee, which was like what they wanted the media to print out. So it was Fan Man-Yee holding her son with her like her eyes are tired, her face are drawn. So like, and she's not not sexy at all in the pictures. Like she looked like a regular mom in the photos, and that's what the court released, and that's what they wanted it to be printed out. But the newspaper printed a different picture. They kind of like changed the narrative. So it was an edited photo, and it showed a very different like victim. They edited photos of Fan Man-Yee on a different face, on a different body, not a different face, on a different body, on like a thin-armed, pert-breasted, and chiseled cheek cyber babe that you can find in like any Japanese video game. Like they depicted her of having like the perfect anime body, and only the printed like newspapers, they show this can only be found, like they showed the edited photos with like her in that edited body bound with duct tape with duct tape, and being subjected to like brutal sadism. So the news stories even claim that you're looking at a quote unquote representation of the real event, which wasn't like the real thing, because they didn't really like turn her into like a sex slave. They kind of just tortured her. They didn't really like bound her in some way or do that. And then the headlines would say like girl eats shit and drinks piss. So it kind of like, instead of like mom was tortured, or like you know what I mean, like they kind of like sexualized it instead. Like they kind of made it into like a fetish thing gone wrong, which wasn't the case. And below those headlines, like the girl eats shit and drinks piss would be the photo of that. Like it didn't really say the bad shit that, or like the triads tortured a mother to death. Like they didn't do
such a clickbait
shit like that, right? And so the article that I read said that this is the most unpleasant crime to come to court in many years, and yet the pictures seem to celebrate it. Clearly, Ahong and her triad friends aren't the only ones living in a cartoon world, which is like, I agree with that line, because it kind of like they turned it into like a hentai thing, which isn't like. Fan Man-Yee was like an actual person, and they kind of made it into like she's the lesser dead because she was a drug addict and she was a sex worker, which you know how people are, the typical society, they don't really value people like that.
Even until now, which sucks.
Even until now. But I think at that time it showed like the worst of it.
Yep.
Because someone just got murdered in like a really terrible way, and then they're showing it as this way, which is like really sick. Anyway, so back to the three men. The three men were arrested right away, and during a 6-week trial, the trio denied killing Fan Man-Yee, but admitted to preventing her from receiving a lawful burial. they also washed their hands of the torture sessions by blaming each other of taking the lead roles. So they were kind of like, oh, Chan Man-lok told me to do this, or oh, he was the one who actually initiated it, or oh, I actually just said to kidnap them, and these two started torturing her. So none of them kind of took accountability with the whole shit, which is like, I find it so fucking ironic because y'all felt like gods by torturing her, and now
they can't even.
That you're going to jail, you're basically chickening out. Like,
do you think it was just because they were scared of the consequences, or they really planned to try and confuse, or maybe they're not that smart?
I think they were scared of the consequences because they were so used to like manipulating people, because they were like the drug lord, they were like, you know, they had power. So
they can't really deny anything because like someone squealed already, so I guess all they have to do now is just point fingers.
Yeah, and plus like the evidence was like in their house.
True.
They can't really like, and the shit was like in their shared refrigerator. I'm pretty sure, like,
you'd be like, oh, I didn't see that.
Right? If you live with somebody and see like, dude, there's like shit
like dead people
in your fridge, right? Like, why is there a head on my stove? I'm going to call the cops. This isn't right. Like, you would do that, not like just, you know. Anyway, so the defense team of the three men was almost successful in convincing the jury that Fan didn't die of torture but drug overdose. But Fan Man-Yee's husband testified, and he said that what is happening to me? He said that she had stopped using drugs before having their son, and the reason why like they were not in like good terms because he was still a drug addict. So yeah, I think she just continued with doing sex work. That's why she met Chan Man-lok, and then they kind of like changed the narrative eventually. I'm not sure, this is just a theory, but like they eventually changed the narrative and said that they were doing drugs and she stole money from him while they were high on drugs, which is, I think, what he did initially was just power tripping.
Yeah. I mean, but even so, like, let's say, for example, he did tell the truth. What if they were doing drugs and she stole from him? That does not give you the right to do all this shit to someone who stole from you. Like, the fuck?
Right? You're a drug lord. You have so much money. Why do you probably have more than 20,000 Hong Kong
and
dollars.
And she paid it!
In your fucking house. Right? Exactly. Like,
he was just power tripping.
Anyway, right, he was just like playing around with her, and they probably knew that she was afraid. Anyway, so yeah, the medical authorities could not determine the exact cause of Fan's death, so the jury refused to convict any of the three men with murder, even though she died because of torture. That's basically murder. I'm so confused. What do they want? Like, do they...
And also, like, okay, so say, for example, they didn't, quote unquote, they didn't kill her, but what they did with the body after she died tells you something. Like, why are you hiding this? And why are you castrating? Like, it is so inhumane.
Exactly. You wouldn't, like, dismember her and shit if you weren't hiding something.
It was too much.
Yeah, also, if she was, like, she died because she was high, she wouldn't last a month. She would, like, die right away.
It would have been, right? It would have been instant. She would have died on the same day. Like, fuck.
Exactly. And plus, Ahong never, like, mentioned that she was high or anything.
True.
Like, they just basically said they didn't even feed her. So, you know what I mean? Like, how could she die through drug overdose when they didn't even feed her? Why would they waste drugs on her? I don't
so
get
many
it.
questions here. God.
Right? So in December of 2000, they sentenced the three men to life in prison with a possibility of parole in the year 2020.
I knew it. Wait, so are they free?
I don't know. I couldn't find any news about it. So I think that... Oh, wait, no. Actually, I found news about it. And I forgot to write it down, but I remember it. They were denied of the parole.
Thank fuck.
And they were like testimonies against them as well, that they weren't just, they didn't just do those kinds of crimes. So the parole was denied because the judge believed that if they were to be set free, they would
do it all over again.
More crimes. Like, probably not murder again, but like they wouldn't be a help to the society.
Yeah.
So, like, keep them in there. It's for the
Good
best.
job.
And Ahong, who participated in the torture, didn't go to jail because she testified at the trial in exchange for immunity. So that's that. She probably helped. She said so, that she helped murder. So there's a murderer out in the open in Hong Kong.
I just hope she had therapy after that. Like, in the first place, she was a minor, and I wouldn't say she didn't know what she was doing, but you can tell that she
could have been manipulated.
Yeah, I mean, she felt guilty about it. Like, her conscience was eating her up.
Yeah.
So I just hope she had therapy after that, and she's like in a better place now and a better person to society.
Exactly. And I hope she's not hanging out with triads anymore, and like she's back. Also, the reason why she ran away, because she got tired of her brothers being bossy to her. We don't know, maybe she was like different kind of bossy, but also, your home is safer than hanging out with triads. And the reason why she started hanging out with them, because she found them cool, because they were gangsters like in the movies. So that's how the impact of like gangster movies in Hong Kong were to them. Like, they were like, yo, I want to be
cool.
that. I want to be a bad guy. I want to be all that shit. Guys, no.
I wouldn't fault her in that 100%, because I remember back when we were in high school, same age, we were kind of like,
exactly.
I've got friends who are gangsters. We're pretty cool.
Yeah, and like we had crushes who were gangsters.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, thank fucking God we didn't act on it. But
I mean, thinking back to it, it's embarrassing.
Exactly. This is why. You know what? Let's discuss that later. I'll just finish this. So, Justice Peter Nguyen, who was like the chief something, I forgot to write down.
Is he Vietnamese?
The Chief Justice. Yeah, I think he is. He's like the Chief Justice who sentenced the trio to life in prison. He stated that never in Hong Kong in recent years has a court heard of such cruelty, depravity, callousness, brutality, violence, and viciousness. This case has taken my breath away. It is the ugliest and evilest case I can remember. It is not just it's not just the facts are grim, but the characters involved. They seem to be completely without any normal human emotion. And when he was asked what he thought happened to the minds of Fan Man-Yee's torturers, he said that, I think they went mad without realizing it. Living together in that flat, high on drugs, they started to believe their world was normal, and they had only themselves against which to measure their sense of human decency. Torture became a game for them. In their twisted minds, it became acceptable. So, I fucking agree.
It makes sense.
right? They were like kind of like praising each other. They were like hyping each other up, like, whoa, dude, you look so cool. Like, no one was like advising them.
They
like,
only had each
"You
other
guys
to.
are going
Yeah.
crazy," right?
I love how
These-
eloquent the judge was. Like the way he said it was like, yes, that is exactly it.
Right. And this was like back in the 90s when like analyzing criminals wasn't like a thing
Yeah,
in the media
yeah.
before. Or I think there was, but not like as rampant as it is now, where people are like,
Yeah, and it's not as sophisticated as we are now.
right, exactly. So yeah, psychiatric reports describe the three members of the triads as remorseless, but even if the psychiatric reports said that, the jury still didn't rule the men to they didn't think that they intended to kill Fan Man-Yee, which would have been like death sentence, I think.
Okay.
So they were like, we don't know how she died, so we'll just like give them a life sentence. Like, it's not even like the mandatory life sentence where they can't get out anymore, but like the life sentence where they
have
the possibility of parole.
Yeah. No.
So yeah.
Oh my god. That's fucking stupid. Like, okay, fine, you can give them, I'm okay with them giving them life sentence, but at least like therapy or something to fix them at least. Like, don't just leave them there. Because it makes sense. Like, I kind of agree with them saying that they didn't really intend to kill her, because I think they just wanted to play. They seemed surprised based on the reports. They kind of seemed surprised to me that she died. I think to them it was all a game and they didn't really expect it to have repercussions like this.
Yeah, I think they thought that it was a game. They probably expected her to die because they didn't feed her, but they didn't really. It didn't really like sink into them. Like, oh shit, she's actually dead. Like, I thought that she would just die, and like in the video games, they usually burst into coins.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't burst into coins. Like, they probably were like that. Like, oh shit, this is like real now, and yeah.
But fuck.
So back to the like minors dating like older men. Like, it's like it's a fucking thing until now. When you're 13, if you're a 13-year-old girl listening to this, or younger or older, if you're a minor, 17, and you start like liking somebody in their 20s, mid-20s.
Wait until you're 18.
That shit. Yeah, that shit is too old for you. Like, I swear to God. I'm almost a certain age.
I thought you were gonna drop it. I'm like, ooh, bold.
I'm almost at a certain age that, you know, I still regret the people that I find attractive. Like, I'm still like, whoa, that did not happen. I swear, like, when you get older, you'd be like, what was I fucking thinking? Like, wait until you're older. Like, don't be in a hurry.
I get that it seems cool to like older people, because, like, to be honest, I still like older people, but not like older people, if you get what I mean.
I mean, unless if you have money. I'm just kidding.
But we're not minors.
Or am I?
We're not minors. We know what we're doing.
We're not minors.
So,
also, there's a reason why girls their age don't like them. Why they prefer kids. You're still a kid because you're a minor.
That tells you something, you know. If they can't, the dude, or, I mean, even if it's vice versa. Like, if you're a guy, you're a minor. Don't date older women, because like
don't.
There's a reason.
You will waste your life.
Yeah.
Also, they're older, so they know what to say to make you feel good. Don't believe their bullshit. That's all I can say. Like, there's a reason why they're not going for 19-year-old girls, even though that 19 is pretty young. That's like still.
I wish I was still
okay,
19.
I think. I am still 19. But yeah, where was I? But yeah, there's a reason why they're going for minors, because it's easy to trick minors compared to non-minors.
What do we call non-minors? Like legal age?
Adult?
What?
Legal people. We're not even
I don't want to
adults.
say adult.
We're adult age, but we're not adults.
Exactly.
We keep saying minors, and the thing that pops into my head are like people that mine. I don't know why.
It's not minor with an E. It's minor with an O.
An O if you're a minor.
Minor. Do we have to say it that way now?
Don't go for. It's so weird. But yeah, just wait. There are a lot of guys that are. Dude, I swear to God, when you get older and you're like the guy that you had a crush before, now that you're older, you're like, ugh.
I know exactly.
Right?
Oh my God, something just popped up in my head, but I'm not gonna say it on like while recording because it's just wrong. But like, you know, this person, you were there when it happened, and I'm just remembering the whole thing. And now that I look back at it, it's gross.
It's gross. I swear to God, it will make you feel cool because, you know, when you're young, you're like, I'm different from all the other girls. I'm like cooler. I'm like, because you're still trying to find your identity.
Exactly.
Which is okay, but don't find your identity in other people by dating people who are probably trying to manipulate you.
Yeah.
Like, be your age. Like the shit that kids your age will like. You know?
Be single in your, like, until your mid-20s at least. That's all I can say. It is! And you get to learn more about yourself. A lot.
Exactly. So yeah,
We're
literally
This is so not like dating advice now.
Tita advice.
Creepy conversations is now like
Ew.
dating advice.
Advice conversation
From people who don't even have, who are not even in a relationship.
who are not qualified to give advice.
It's like, these single ladies giving me advice. What?
Be single because you're single.
Now it makes sense to them. It's like, oh, no wonder they're advocating for being single because these bitches don't have partners.
And let me tell you guys, it's really
a lot of fun
to not wake up and say, oh, I just woke up. Have you eaten? I can't imagine being like that.
I cannot. But anyway, don't go murder people and don't date older people.
Don't date older creeps.
Don't date creeps. Period.
Be a creeper.
Don't date creeps.
Don't date creeps.
Oh, I love that. We have a new thing.
Ooh, that should be
Merch.
like our new ending shit.
It's a merch kind of thing. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Watch out for our future merch, which will probably be like 2022.
Let me tweet that right now, because in case we forget, because I just love it. What was it again? Be a creep. Don't.
Creeper.
Oh, sorry. Be a creeper.
Be a creeper. Don't date creeps. But don't date creeps.
But
we are literally like, as we are recording, we're like,
oh my God,
right now.
Because like my memory, it's such a short attention, whatever.
We have shit memory, guys.
We're probably having dementia as we speak.
It's developing.
Okay.
Anyway,
there, I tweeted it.
And because Gabby has tweeted it, that's the unfortunate murder. Murder. Jesus.
What?
That's the unfortunate murder of Fan Man-Yee, or also known as the Hello Kitty murder.
I'm never gonna look at Hello Kitty the same way again.
Me too. I don't even like her, and now I'm like,
I don't like her either, but it just reminds me of this place in Universal Studios. They've got like a shitload of Hello Kitty merch.
Kitties.
Yeah. I'd probably be looking for skulls inside that if I go back. But anyway, thanks for creeping, you fucking...
No! Follow us. Since Gabby mentioned Twitter, follow us on Twitter at Creepy Combos and on Instagram and Facebook, Creepy Conversations.
We're so all over the place. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if, guys, please, we have Patreon. Show us some of your love.
Yeah.
Because we love you. Love us back through Patreon.
I mean, check out our videos, man. That's on patreon.com.
We have
/creepy
we have
combos.
so many extra shit. We have many extra shit on Patreon, and we'll probably release merch there first. So y'all better watch out.
And thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
And remember, the government is always watching you. Bye.